With springtime really here now for us, it has made me want to get my infused oils going to make salves for the summertime, like this plantain oil, and start seeds for some of my favorite medicinal plants like calendula and holy basil. Before we jump into how to make this fermented garlic honey, I wanted to share that I have a guide that you can download that has 6 tinctures that are great for summer. This can help you think through what seeds to plant now to have those plants ready for the summertime in order to be able to tincture them. All the recipes are super beginner friendly, easy, and straightforward to make. And I'll leave a link to that down in the description below. I am going to make some fermented honey with garlic today because we have been getting lots of coughs and colds lately, and I guess it's just that time of year when the seasons are changing. But I want to stock up our medicine cabinet a little bit more, so I'm going to make this fermented garlic honey, which is good for coughs and colds and sore throats. Garlic is so good for overall health, and then with honey it's great for boosting the immune system. So I'm going to make some of this fermented honey with garlic. So to make this, you only need honey and garlic, very easy. We bought a very large tub of somewhat local honey. It is, I find, quite difficult to find local honey here in the UK that's relatively, affordable. So somewhat local honey that I'm using here, it's raw, unpasteurized. And then garlic. You want to have quite a bit of garlic. I bought mine from the supermarket. And then a glass jar to ferment your garlic in. I'm using an old pickle jar. So what I'm going to do first is chop up this garlic. I'm going to just fill it. I'm sure online you can find very precise recipes for this, but I've done it a few times and I just kind of wing it every time. Basically, the most important thing is that however much garlic you use, you want the honey to sit about 2 inches above however much garlic you use. You can make really small batches of this if you have 3 bulbs of garlic, or I'm going to make a little bit like a medium-sized batch and use all this garlic. This is 9 bulbs of garlic, and I will fill it with this honey. You don't really need to make a huge batch. I know honey is super expensive, and so I'm just making a small batch today with lots and lots of garlic in it. So I will show you the process. I'm trying to get better about doing things even if they're not perfect. I would love to grow our own garlic. I have some garlic planted, but I haven't had any success with it so far. So I just decided, I'm going to go to the supermarket and buy garlic there. I bought organic garlic and just make it using this, which is totally fine to do. For some reason, I always forget that that's an option. I think this garlic is so pretty. It's like stripy purple and white. I'm going to open up all these bulbs, and then I will just use my knife to chop up the cloves. You could use a garlic press, but I don't know, mine always gets quite gummed up and it's just a bit slower than chopping it up with a knife, so I'm going to use a knife. Today, when I'm doing this, is International Women's Day. To any fellow women out there who are trying to learn how to take care of their families in a more natural way, opt out of the industrial food system in any small way that they can, learning skills that will really benefit your family and yourself for years to come, and just trying to improve every day. Happy International Women's Day. Okay, now I'm going to chop this up and I will show you how far I get. I don't have a lot of patience, but I'm going to try my best to chop all these up. I've removed the peels from most of them. I had a few little cloves, like, teeny tiny ones. I'm not going to include them because it takes too long to remove the peels. So I'll just put those little cloves into our, where we keep our garlic and turmeric and ginger and we'll just use the little cloves in our cooking. So now I'm going to just do this last one. Now I'm just going to chop this. You want to remove like obvious brown spots, you know, remove those when you're chopping them up. And it's good to do a fine chop on these. You know, if you have a reliable garlic press, I would say definitely use that. Like I said, ours gets all gummy and it's not very great. So I'm just gonna, you know, finely chop this garlic. I'll just chop it all in one direction and I'll go back the other direction. The reason you want a fine, you want the garlic chopped finely is because it will maximize the surface area that is exposed to the honey. So the honey will have more of an opportunity to draw out those beneficial compounds from the garlic. It's the same principle in tinctures. That's why we macerate the plant material before we tincture or chop it up. You just want to maximize how much surface area is exposed to the alcohol or the honey or the vinegar or the glycerin if you're making alcohol-free tinctures. Okay, now in an ideal world, this would be more finely minced, but I don't actually have so much time. So I'm now going to add this to the jar. So like I said before, the key with this is that you want like 2 inches of headspace above the garlic. So I have quite a bit of garlic in there, and I'm going to take the honey up to about there. This is also a good thing to make if you don't like the taste of honey that you bought. This honey is super sweet, so it's not my fave. This is a good application so it doesn't get wasted. Okay, when you dump it in, you're gonna want to take like a knife or a spoon and make some, room for the honey to get all the way down to the bottom. Make sure all the air is out of the bottom, because when you're fermenting things, air is the enemy. You want to make sure everything is like totally below the honey or the salt brine. So I'm gonna do this a few times. I'm taking the back of the spoon and I'm going around the jar, the edge of it, and just kind of pushing the garlic to the center and releasing any pockets of air that are down at the bottom. I'm going around maybe 3 times doing this. If you don't do this and there's air in the honey, it will make it all spoil more quickly. Okay, so you can also just drop it like this. Alright, now I'm going to keep filling with honey. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing again. Just make sure everything is below. Might be easier actually because there's so much honey in there now. I'm going to just drop it like this. Because I was spinning it again, some of the garlic raised up and it's at the top of the jar. What I'm going to do is just put a lid on because I know there's enough honey in there. I saw the headspace originally. And the garlic will sink to the bottom as it starts to ferment. And I'll just keep an eye on it, like later today, how it's looking, and tomorrow. If things are still poking a bit out from the honey, I'll just add more honey. So I'm just gonna add a lid and put it in a dark place. How long it takes depends on how warm your house is. So it's hard to say exactly. What you're looking for is a very runny texture. You'll also notice these little bubbles start to form. That is just the fermentation process starting to kick in. So that's a good sign. I'm gonna leave mine for at least 2 weeks, but you'll start to see the honey drop to the bottom, and the consistency of the honey is very liquid. And that's how you know it's good to use. Every few days, take the lid off to let the gases that develop in the fermentation process to be released. This way you don't have to worry about pressure building up in the jar or anything. And try to every day kind of give it a shake to keep everything covered. And then once the garlic sinks to the bottom, you don't really have to shake it anymore because you know that it's totally submerged. So that is it. I like to take a tablespoon a few times a day in the winter. And in the spring, I don't really know what I'm gonna do. Probably like a tablespoon if someone in the house is ill, or if I, am not getting enough sleep and I know my immune system is at a weakened state, which has happened a lot recently with our youngest child not sleeping very well. But yeah, that's it. It's very simple. Great powerhouse medicine to have to support the immune system. So it's the next day, and I wanted to show you that already the texture of the honey has changed quite dramatically. It's much more runny. You can see these little bubbles forming, which indicate that fermentation is slowly starting to happen. This is a bit faster than it normally happens for me. So just monitor yours when you make yours. Definitely want a runny texture. I'm still waiting for my garlic to drop down, which is something that will also happen when it is closer to being done. The taste of this is still that bitter garlic taste, and when it's finished, it will have a more mild flavor. So you can also just give it a taste if you want to test how far along it is. So give it a try, let me know how you get on down in the comments, and I'll speak to you in the next video.